Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to our Oscar special for 2024. Yay! We're dressed slightly different. I'm not going to keep this hat on, but I wanted to show the full effect. I'm going for color purple.
Color purple.
And my salute to the ladies in color purple.
And with the fabulous hat.
With my hat,
Yeah.
but I'm going to lose the hat now and show everybody that I buzzed my head.
And
earlier this
I
week.
did the pink feather boa for Barbie.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't own a lot of pink, so I borrowed this from my daughter.
Well, and you have this fabulous, wonderful auburn hair, so pink probably
Pink
isn't
clashes, yeah, it clashes
You know.
a little, but we'll go with it. And then I've got little spider webs because I think the Oscars, maybe they're a little antiquated, but
the thing. A little, shall we say.
we will talk about it today.
But this is actually our third Oscar special, which is kind of crazy if you stop and think about it.
It is insane. Yeah.
It's kind of fun. But because this is how it all sort of started, was that you have been someone who posted about movies for years, and I would follow you because I don't know if everybody knows this, but you, and we're going to talk about Taka here in a second, but you have been somebody who's just done so much work in the field for parents for years. And when I think I met you because you were doing stuff with Taka, but then you were also working as the liaison for the MedMap, it was Dan back then,
Dan,
doctor,
yeah.
that we were, so you became my lifeline for everything, and still is. But you were always posting about movies, way before I ever thought about posting about movies.
Yeah.
And then I started doing reviews, and we started noticing we didn't agree on
We
everything.
don't always agree.
And vehemently we don't agree on some things, and yet we continue to love each other, which is remarkable.
Which is a lesson for everyone, right? You
Yeah.
can disagree and still be friends.
Well, I always say, what's your favorite color? And, some people will say pink, some people will say purple, blue, green, whatever. And occasionally you get somebody who says brown or, whatever it is. But we don't say to people, really?
Yeah.
Why is that your favorite color? It's a matter of what feels good for you. So everybody is allowed to have their taste.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can disagree, and you can disagree vehemently. We might
might.
before this hour is over. I have a sneaking suspicion that we will. But anyway, so that's how this all started. And I said, hey, come and let's do an Oscar special.
Yes, yeah.
So we did an Oscar special, and then it was so much fun we couldn't stop doing it.
Well, exactly. That was like, I get to do this. I get to have homework to watch movies.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yes, I freaked out yesterday because I realized when I was going back through the PowerPoint that there was one movie that I hadn't seen. I thought I'd seen them all. So last night I was like, at 9 o'clock, I was like, I gotta watch a movie. So
it'll be fresh.
It's fresh in my mind. Yes, there we go. All right, so first of all, we're live right now. In case you guys aren't aware, we're live. It is Wednesday morning. What is it, the 5th? I don't know, 6th? It's the 6th.
I think it's the 6th.
It's the 6th of March. Good that I know where I am and who I am. Somebody remind me in a minute. Anyway, we're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Our fabulous Chris Desmond will show some things on the screen probably at some point, telling you where you can be watching the show. We're live. You can be interacting right now on those platforms. It's free to you to do that. We really enjoy it. I'm monitoring if you guys have comments or questions or whatever. And anything is fair game. We're gonna talk about, you're gonna give us a Taka update. We're gonna talk about films. We're gonna talk about the Oscars, but anything is fair game. You have two mamas here that I call myself a pony, parent of neurodiverse individual. How do you identify?
I don't have a moniker like that. I just know I'm the person that's helping Vico move forward in life and get to do and have an enriched life. So I don't have a little acronym for that, but
In our family, we're always talking about what's the elevator pitch.
Oh.
Like, what's the elevator pitch?
You're better at that.
No, because people ask you all the time. So and it is always uncomfortable. There have been a couple of times in my life where people have assumed that I am the person on the spectrum because I host shows.
Oh.
And I could see why they would, because, you would, I mean, it would,
right.
honestly, right? It would make more sense in some in some
yeah,
ways, right?
yeah.
And that I've had to say to them, no, I am not the person on the spectrum. And then they will say to me, so what is your relationship to autism? And over the years, it's changed so much. So,
Yeah.
yes,
No, it
but in our
has.
family, we're constantly talking about what's the elevator pitch? How do I put this in terms that I'm comfortable with, that somebody will understand, and that I'm not offending 38 people?
Well, yeah.
It's hard.
It is. It's difficult, and
It's
I
hard.
always try to take the lead of the person that's telling me, this is what I would prefer. Like the whole,
Yes.
I always default to person first language, but if
Yes.
somebody is saying I'm autistic rather than I'm a person with
Yes.
autism, then that's the way I would refer to them, because
Yeah.
that's only polite, right?
Yes, exactly. So I like to ask people, what do you like? But when there are people who will come up to me even now, I say I'm a parent of a neurodiverse individual, and there will be people on the spectrum who will come up to me and say, that's wrong. You need to be saying neurodivergent. And I always say to them, thank you for telling me that's what you would like, but that is the language my son gave me. And so
Right.
that is the language
And
I'm
that's
going
what
to
you
use
go with.
because he gets to decide how I say that.
Right, and it's, I always say, you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
Yes.
Because everybody is unique, everybody has a different focus on how they want to be identified.
Yes.
And you got to be respectful of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, getting back to, we're two people here who want to be good allies and want to be of help. So if you have questions, feel free to write, or comments about the movies or anything, feel free to write in. This show will podcast later on. Today it'll be available on YouTube, and it'll be a free download wherever you get your podcasts, as are all of our previous shows. If you want to go back because you're filling out your Oscar ballot and you would like to know, I assume that my Oscar ballot would look vastly different than Moira. Not vastly, but significantly different.
A few
Key races that I think would be different. But if you want, maybe you haven't seen the films and you're like, I'd love to know what Shannon and Moira say, then you can go back, look on YouTube, where you can see us in all of our glory. Or you can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, we're on Spotify. I mean, it's everywhere. It's a free download. It doesn't cost you anything to download it. It does cost us to make it so that you can download it. We get charged per download. So you will see that there are advertisers when you download it, and please understand that that's because you're not being charged. And you're welcome. But if that really bums you out and you're just like, I'm in a hurry and I want the information, you always have the opportunity. You can pay for an ad-free version.
Oh.
You can go to glow.fm/autism-live. It's $5 a month, and when you do that, you get everything on the Autism Network. That's Autism Live. Let's talk the movies. Let's talk all the things, stories from the spectrum, and Ask Dr. Doreen. And our new shows that we're getting ready to do, today's Hyperfixation and Autismo y Comunidad will also be available on that as well. And then they're automatically sent to you. They're in your inbox, and they are ad-free. That's $5 a month, or if you pay for it for the year, it's even less. We're not trying to make money off of you, but we do have to defray the costs.
You have to keep the lights on.
That's right. And we're saying hello to Rodney. Rodney, I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll write in if you have anything to say about any of these movies that we're going to be talking about. But first, we want to do a TACA update.
A TACA update. TACA has, for April, we're doing our Autism Action Month, and it is a virtual offering. It is $35 for a month long of great lectures, some really good workshop activities, and that's happening all through the month of April. And if $35 is too much, we have scholarships that are available. Please reach out. Don't be shy, because that's one of the things TACA always makes sure to have things available, either for free, low cost, and if it has a cost associated with it, we always have scholarships. So,
and don't feel bad about that.
Yeah,
I'm the recipient of a TACA scholarship,
Yeah.
and it helped me. And you have to get over feeling like I should have enough money for this. If you don't, you don't,
Right.
and just ask for it.
Yes, please ask for it, and we always find a way to accommodate everybody that needs it, because
Yep.
it's important. And you're going to learn some things at this conference that you will take and utilize to help your kiddo, as we are parents with children with autism,
Yes.
helping parents with children with autism. Families helping families. So we're sharing our info of like, hey, we tried this and it helped, or here's how you advocate for a particular service, or if your child is presenting a certain way, here are some possible ways to help your kiddo.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's all about that. It's all about helping your kid realize their dreams, right? I mean, that's what our job is as parents.
Yes, but I also think there's that thing of getting your battery recharged, which you guys do better than anybody else. I always promote when you guys are doing anything because I believe in what you guys do. I know what it did for me. And I also know when I've said it here on the show and I've said to people, hey, you know, here is what it is. I've never, ever heard a parent complain. I have never heard a parent go, well, that was a waste of my time. Not ever. In fact, it's completely the opposite. They always say, oh, this was a game changer. Oh, this was life changing. This was exactly what I needed. And I love that you get the entire month for $35,
Yes,
right?
and then you get it until the end of May, the recordings. I think that some of the sessions where it's Q&A are not recorded just to protect privacy for people, but the sessions that the speakers are doing, you will be able to view those for an additional month, so you won't miss anything. So,
you know, what I like to think of is if you were to go and buy a book, it would be close to that $35 by the time you paid the shipping and the, you know, whatever. And if you don't get to all of them, I think sometimes we go, but there's no way I have time to go to all of them.
Yes.
Don't think of it that way. If you think about, you know, do I have time, look at the list of the topics and go, are there at least 3 of these that I can say to myself, this would be really beneficial for me to take the time to go, and then it's so worth your time and the money. And again, if you don't have the $35, ask for help for it to, you know, be afraid or paid. I had to do that, and please have no shame about that.
Yeah, don't be shy.
There's no point in that. Okay. And by the way, you can get, how do you
Talkanow.org. If you go to talkanow.org, there you'll find all the information and be able to register there. And there is I believe, an email for I need a scholarship. You can just click through that email and we will take care of you.
So there it is on the screen, but for those of you listening, TACANOW.org. TACANOW. TACA stands for the Autism Community in Action. And then now, because when are you going to take action? Now.org. All right, there we go. My little commercial for talking.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that information and all the work that you've done over the years. My goodness, all the lives that you've helped, mine included.
Aw.
So now it's our fun time, though, where we get to talk about, we've talked about a lot of the movies that have been nominated, but there are a few that we had not gotten around to talking about. So we're going to go through those, a couple of outliers, and then we are going to talk a little bit about what we are emotional about snubs.
Yes, snubs.
And the ones that we're rooting the most for, the things on the night that we're going to be like this, waiting to see who wins. And I will more than likely be taking off my earrings and throwing my shoes, and because I don't think one of mine, I don't think is going to win, and I've already made my peace with it, but I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
All right. Having said that, let's get started with our first film. And our first film today, Past Lives.
Past Lives, yes. Now, so Past Lives is directed by Celine Song, Greta Lee, T.O.U. and John Magaro, I'm sorry if I'm butchering people's names, are starring in this. And it is the story of a young girl and boy who are in the very beginnings of first love. They're kind of middle school age. Then the young love is split apart when the girl and her family immigrate to the U.S. Years go by, they find each other again through social media. They kind of pick up where they left off with an online friendship/courtship, but there comes a moment where they realize it's just their lives are taking, different directions, and it's very difficult because he's still in Korea, she's in the States, and just trying to figure out how will we see each other with these thousands of miles separating us. They decide to go their separate ways. Years pass again. They both pursue their careers and find love, and then one day he's able to come visit. So I really like this film. It's a quiet film, and as you have told me, this is probably a really good example of the Korean aesthetic of having the lovers pine for each other and not be in the same space. So that's a difficult thing for me. I tend to like ooh, their hands touched, ooh, the first kiss, but that's different, but this is really interesting. It explores the what if, which we all go through. And I'm sure that I'm watching it, I was thinking, there was that one guy that seemed like a good connection, but it just wasn't the right timing. And you just wonder, what if I had, stuck with that? Or what if I didn't meet my current spouse? And all these different what ifs. And it had grown on me, the film, because initially I was kind of like, a little bit like, I wanted a little more spark. But the sweetness really stayed with me. And, my husband, I'll give him credit for this. His comment about the film is like the last 40 seconds of that film were the best. And it's like the entire film is leading up to that last 40 seconds. And I'm okay with that. I think that's kind of, I'm all right with it. And, I don't know that I would say it's Best Picture worthy, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I agree with your husband completely. The pace of this movie, the only word I can come up with is plod. Now, the history of this, we've been saying, if you are into K-drama, which Jill Craterhart turned me on to K-drama. She's a K-drama mama, and she was like, you got to watch this. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to watch one of these. And I was so converted. If you've not watched a K-drama, I'm telling you, it's one of those things where I sort of want to say to people, don't. Live your whole life and don't watch it, because it does start to take over your life, because that's all you want to do is watch K-drama. It's so addictive because it's the best. It is just the best. And there are several hallmarks of K-drama. And everyone is watching K-drama. Netflix has devoted a huge portion of what they're doing for the next 4 years to K-drama because it's so addictive and it's everywhere. But there are hallmarks to K-drama, and it's that the lovers cannot be together. That for most or all of the thing, they cannot be together, and there is this longing, this longing. So it's not people throwing each other up against walls and slobbering all over each other. It's not. It's the longing, right? But there are some other hallmarks of K-drama, which is that, do you remember Dirty Dancing? And they would have all these scenes that would, be very sexual, suggestive, and then they would cut to the lake. And then they would go back to the dancing, and then they cut to the lake, right? And K-drama does that, but with this very specific thing where you cut to these secondary characters in the B story that are kind of buffoons. There's male and there's female usually in them, and they're the comic relief. And the way they make it work is you'll have this high drama, longing, and then you cut to essentially Gomer Pyle. I mean, it's very, and there's always somebody who is the buffoon, who's idiot, and who maybe drank a little too much beer, right? So there's that, but it's very well done. It sounds bad, but it's very well done in K-drama, and it sort of builds to this thing where you're just on the edge of your sofa and going, my God, if they don't kiss, I'm going to lose my mind. The top of my head will come off. My husband has come in when I'm like, if they don't kiss, I can't live, right? And they slowly build you to this thing, and then they'll get you all heated, and then you get the comedy and all heated. So many people have said, this is such a cash cow. Why are not more places taking advantage of the elements of K-drama? Because people are eating it up and making tons and tons of money. So why not? So this was sort of the first foray. This is an American and Canadian film.
Right.
That is partially in Korean. We have Korean actors, and we've got the longing piece. They did not get the comic relief buffoon part right. My husband was like, "What? did that scene even belong in this movie? And that it was poorly acted. It was all of his friends.
His friends, yeah, when they were out together.
And they were drinking, and,
Yeah.
and they were trying.
Yeah.
I know exactly what they were trying to do. They did not do that well. But the longing they had. Greta Lee is so good.
Yes, she is.
And she keeps it moving along. His character is written to be more stoic, right? Which is okay with the K-drama. But it plods. It plods. It can move around so much faster. But I think that it lands the plane so
Beautifully.
well that, you know, the whole movie then makes sense for you. It's worthwhile watching. It resonates with everybody. But the ending is what makes the whole movie. But I'm like, did it really need to be Best Picture? I don't think so. But there are a lot of people that say it should win.
Really? Interesting.
I don't understand that. But I will say that if you like this movie and this type of movie, there's a series on Netflix that's called One Day.
Oh, yes. I was curious about that.
Yes, well, you'll have to watch that.
Okay,
And
I
then
will.
you'll have to call me when you're done.
Now, isn't there one, there's a movie, I want to say it's Please Stay or
don't know.
Time to Leave, or I forget, somebody will correct me, that people have said, oh, you got to see that.
Well,
and I'm like, okay.
If you like Past Lives, One Day is the one to watch.
Okay, all right.
One Day is the one to watch because it does not plod.
Okay,
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
On to our next
Our
film.
next one is American Fiction.
Here we go.
And that is directed by Cord Jefferson, and it stars Jeffrey Wright, Sterling K. Brown, Issa Rae, Tracy Ellis Ross, and Leslie Uggams. It is the fabulous Jeffrey Wright plays a writer and a professor, and he's struggling to be taken seriously. His books tend to be marginalized, and filed under Black authors, and he's struggling to be taken seriously. Another of his contemporaries has written a book that delves into what is a small segment of the Black experience, but it's because it's showing struggle, adversity. White intellectuals are very much on board with this type of storytelling, and I've heard people refer to it as, Black pain, Black struggle, Black suffering tends to be like, oh yeah, we're going to feel good about that, and that's a very small portion of what it means to be Black in America, I would imagine. I'm not a Black person, but this reminded me a little bit. He decides he's going to write something similar, and he just goes like off the deep end in terms of caricature parody in a way of what he's seeing becoming successful. And it reminded me a little bit of The Producers, when in The Producers they try to make a musical so abhorrent that it'll fail because they can make money even off a failed Broadway musical. And if you've seen that film, the name of their play is Springtime for Hitler, and it's a musical, and it's a nutty thing. But so Jeffrey Wright's character is kind of trying to do that, and this book becomes a sensation, and he's hiding his true identity. And there's some very funny moments where the more outrageously he behaves, the stronger that they buy into this movie. He even changes the name of the book to be the F word, and they're like, oh, we can't do that. And it's like, that's what you're doing. And those things are really funny. I felt like it skewers academia. And ultimately, I feel the message of this film is history is written by the oppressors. It's all through the lens. And even when you try to take hold of your story, it falls on deaf ears. So that's kind of the way I looked at it. And of course, I got to mention Sterling K. Brown. He was nominated as well for supporting actor. It was a great supporting cast. I don't know that it's Best Picture either, but I liked what it was exploring, and I love Jeffrey Wright. So I have a feeling you did not like this film.
No, I did not like this film. But I don't like parody. I think
Okay.
this is what we've arrived at, because for me, what this reminded me of was Don't Look Up, which I hated.
That's
Oh,
right,
I
and
just
I liked it.
hated
Yeah.
that movie.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think I just don't like parody because I'm like, okay, who are we making fun of and how? Because, and this was like a parody of a parody of a parody. It just kept, in that way, it was a lot like, what's the movie Inception?
Yeah.
Where we keep falling
Going
into
deeper
the
and deeper.
and you know, and it gets ridiculous, which I lose patience with. But you know, I don't mind if you're going to make fun of things. I don't mind, and I don't mind that as a vehicle to, because we're going to talk about when we get to Elemental. There's an element in there. I don't mind when you take something out of context and put it someplace else so people can see it. But at a certain point, I get impatient with how stupid they all think we are. Right? Like how. And I got very impatient with this film. I just did. I was like, okay. Like at a certain point, it's funny because I have a friend who can't watch I Love Lucy. Can't watch I Love Lucy. And I'm like, why? And she goes, because she's humiliating herself and it's making fun of her. And I have another friend who could never watch In Living Color. And I would be like, why can't you watch In Living Color? And and this was a white person saying, because I feel like so much of it, you know, is stereotypical about the the color, the community of color, and not in a good way. And she was like, it makes me feel anxious. And I felt that it poked fun of everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely poked fun of and I think maybe I have a little bit of that too, like those other two friends that I was like, I don't like that we're making fun of things that are very serious to me. And the thing that I liked the least in the movie was Sterling K. Brown.
Oh, really?
I felt like he, you know, here's this wonderful opportunity. He's a great actor. I love him as an actor and as a person, and he's been so solidly in support of the autism community. So solidly in support. And so I was like, oh, I can't wait to see him in this role. And when you discover that he's playing the gay brother, and I was like, oh, I love this. And he's not going to be your stereotypical gay brother because he's a doctor.
Right.
And I was like, I love this, that we're showing, you know, that, you know, there can be gay black doctors. Like, I love this. And then it was just such a stereotypically written. I was frustrated, and I felt like it almost was making a little bit of fun of that. And I have no right to feel agency about that, but for my friends that were gay, I was like, that's not how I want you represented. Like, that is so 1984. Okay. And I was over it. So, and I thought it was so predictable by the time. Here's the other thing I don't like. When somebody is in a film and they've got this story that's going, and then it's revealed to us that this is really the thing that they're writing.
Right.
Which was a little bit of Past Lives too. I super hate that. I just super hate that as a vehicle. I hated when Greta Gerwig did that with Little Women.
Oh.
I just hate that. It's a vehicle that I hate. I go, so you just set me up that I'm watching a story and now it's that you were writing the story the whole time. It's so done. It's so done. And there was a point where I was like, okay, so the next scene is going to be this. And then that was the next scene. And Jim was like, oh, have you seen this before? I was like, no, it's that predictable. I just yawn. Okay. I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
All right. Like it. That's fair. That's fair.
You know.
But yeah, I don't know. You know, I love Jeffrey Wright, so I will see anything he's in, honestly. Okay. I just love him. Yeah.
Well, and I love Sterling K. Brown, but not in this. Okay. Not in this. Yeah. Anyway,
all right.
So there we have it.
Well,
I still love him.
I think we both agree this was not a Best Picture level.
No, and I feel like it's a joke that it got I feel like that the person wrote this to say, I want to comment on the fact that I could go write a film like this and that you would all eat it up. And then everybody is eating it up and they got nominated for an Oscar and
which life imitating art, I kind of like that.
And I will say, one other thing is that I hate it when you're like building up this whole thing and there's a plot point that is so thin that it's like he's been asked to review books for this thing, and his book that he's not owning is in the thing, and it's like, what will I do? And I'm like, you just recuse yourself on that book, dude. It's not that big of a deal.
Not that hard.
And you say, no, I know the author. You don't even have to own it. Like, it was just a stupid plot point. And, and it hinged, a lot of stuff hinged on that.
It, yeah. All right.
No.
Fair. I just don't know how those things work. I've never reviewed books.
No, you recuse yourself.
You
on
recuse
you
yourself,
say,
okay.
You're not allowed to, if you're, you know.
Oh, if you know the person,
when
you've
you're
got a
doing,
conflict.
you know, because you've done grants before, if you know the people,
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
true.
say, I'm out on this one, I don't get a vote. It's just like when you're a judge. If you know somebody, you recuse yourself and say,
Yep.
and anybody who did anything like that would know. So
know.
I was
Okay.
like,
All right.
no, I'm not buying it.
Fair.
Not buying
All
it.
right. We'll
All right,
move
next
along.
film.
The Color Purple.
Yes.
This directed by Blitz Bazawule.
I don't know.
I don't know, and I apologize. Fantasia Barrino, Taraji P. Henson, Danielle Brooks, Halle Bailey, and Coleman Domingo, among others, star in this.
Yeah.
And first, there was the book Alice Walker wrote. Then the movie adaptation by Steven Spielberg, starring Whoopi Goldberg, Danny Glover, Oprah Winfrey. Then American Idol star Fantasia caught the eye of Oprah Winfrey and then starred on Broadway in the musical adaptation of Color Purple. And then Spielberg's back again as executive producer, as is Oprah. And then there's this musical adaptation of the Broadway show adaptation of a movie, just so we get things straight. That's where we are.
Thank you. That was a lovely retrospective.
And this is it's a beautifully shot film with a few standout performances, especially Danielle Brooks, who is nominated, and some great numbers. But I have to admit, it did not move me as much as I thought it would. My expectations were perhaps too high, but I didn't think they quite succeeded in creating a musical. I was a bit mystified by the one number, Miss Seeley's Pants. It seemed to come out of nowhere. And if there had been at least one comment by Mr., and I'm skipping over the premise of it. It's I should go back. If you're not familiar with the story, Seeley and her sister are torn apart when has to marry this abusive man who goes by Mr. And then it's her life. She's had to give up the babies that she's had through awful circumstance, and she's had to give up the babies she's had, and then she's married off to this guy, and her sister is taken from her as well, and she's sort of living this dull, difficult life. And but if there had been a moment where Mr. said he wore the pants in the family, the Miss Seeley Pants number would have been great. But I was like, okay, well, this is a good showstopper type of number, but I don't know where it's coming from. And I struggled with that. The standout numbers, Hell No, which is Danielle Brooks, and I Am Here, which is the big moment for Seeley's character, Fantasia, playing her. However, there's just something a little awkward about the way they're presented. There also didn't seem to be enough songs in it to be a musical, and I read that they did cut some songs from the musical, and they also cut the song I Am Here shorter, so it doesn't have a chance to build to its emotional, it doesn't have as long to build to its emotional crescendo. And I'm also saddened that the relationship between Seeley and Shug, played by Taraji P. Henson, is once again minimized. In the book, I haven't read the book, but I read a review that stated that is an integral part of the plot. They are lovers. They find nurturing and care and dignity with each other. And that's sort of given short shrift in this, much as it was in the previous film. I don't know, again, I didn't see it on Broadway, did not read the book, but that kind of bums me out, because when I read that was actually an integral part of the plot of the book, that, you know, the reviewer said this book is a book about a lesbian love affair. Then I'm like, okay, well then they really underplayed that. So I enjoyed it. I know that we'll probably end up duking it out, because I know you feel strongly about it. So tell me your strong feelings.
Yeah, this is Best Picture for me.
Okay.
And I am, I will be throwing my shoes about the fact that it didn't even get a Best Picture nomination. I I missed that in the initial, I was looking at the Oscar nominations, and I missed that to begin with because I so assumed it was there. That's how clear it was for me that this is the best picture of the year. And I did read the book, and I think that reviewer
It was incorrect?
is incorrect. I mean, that's very much a part of the story, but that's not what the book is about.
Okay.
The book is about a woman who comes to terms with everything about her womanness. In an era in which her womanness is told to sit down and shut up and not be. That is what that book is about. Now, part of it is that, part of her journey is that she is in love with Shug, and that Shug, that there is a relationship there, but Shug cannot be confined to one relationship.
Right.
She's one of those women. So it's not about the book. Whoever wrote that book review was a man who was looking for that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I have no other things to say about that. But, I'm having a reaction to that. I can't get past that. But I did read the book before I ever saw the first film. I read the book, and so often you read a book and the film does not live up to. But I loved the first movie. I loved the first movie. I was dismayed that they pulled back. I felt like it was implied that she loved Shug, but not what was in the book, and I felt like Spielberg kind of backpedaled on that.
Yeah.
I did not feel like it was at all backpedaled in this film at all. They kiss, and it's very clear that
it's very clear they're together. At one point,
except that.
And then she leaves.
Well, but Shug cannot be confined to a relationship. That's Shug in the book. That's Shug. Okay. So I loved this movie, and for me, it was Best Picture, and it is the female empowerment picture of the year. Despite what other, some people are saying that Barbie is, some people are saying that Hot Put to Poor Things is, But no, this for me was the female empowerment. It's why I represented in purple today, and I was afraid I wasn't going to like it. I was afraid to sit down and watch it, and I will say that we watched it on the largest screen that we have at home, and I can only imagine how much more beautiful it was on the big screen, because one of the things that this director brought to it is this sense of, which I loved, this sewing. And sewing as a culture, sewing as a career, sewing as an empowerment, and that, there were many years that women just sewed and made quilts and clothing, right? But sewing is a thing that goes across generations and can bring people together. And he very much sewed that into the fabric of this movie, so that even the credits and the ending, it's quilts, which for me was... like I got so emotional. Like I wish that my mother had lived to see this movie. My mother, it would have meant so much to her. And that is something that women had when they had nothing else. And she has nothing else. She, the circumstance under which she has had her 2 children is rape.
Right.
And then those children are taken away from her, but the only memory that she really has with her mom is sewing. You can sew, girl. And that sewing was a way out for so many women, and I loved that he honored that in the film in every way that he could. I loved that, this sense of this person who was finding their way. It was a little wonky for me that the transition from, because we have 2 different actresses playing these roles, because how do you age somebody? That was a little clunky for me. I will say that. But I thought that, Danielle Brooks in this movie is...
She's the standout to me.
And when you think about you're going to play a role that Oprah was nominated for an Oscar for, and how you're going to land that plane, and she did not hold back.
She
you want to talk about putting your whole back into something? She made
me cry.
I so celebrated her performance. And I'll talk about this later, but Taraji P. Henson in this, I love Taraji P. Henson. I have yet to see her do something that I have not loved, and that woman does not know how to do things in half, and I thought the standout number, I stood in my living room when she did the number about Push the Button, and I felt like that was so much better in this film than it was in the last one, because I got to believe that Shug is somebody that she walks into a room and everybody wants Shug.
Right.
In
right.
whatever, all the men, all the women, they all want Shug. They want to be her. They want to be loved by her. They all love her. They want to have sex with her. And I thought that Taraji P. Henson brought that. I just loved it. I will say that as much as I love Fantasia, I just don't think she was the strong point in the film. But that didn't take away. I think it's a beautiful film. I think what it says about women and survival and black women and being a mom and what it is to be a mom and a sister and just a woman. Holy business.
Yeah.
Best picture.
All right.
That I stand by it.
Yep. You reminded me when you were talking about sewing. My grandmother, when they immigrated to this country, she got a job sewing, and she ended up supporting the family for quite a while because she was the only one working. Yeah, she was she was so skilled that she worked for a company that made bathing suits, and she ended up making some bathing suits for Esther Williams for the studios. So that is part of, when you said that, it's going to make me cry. That does connect women. It's like this is something that women can do to raise up the family and themselves and
And a lot of people poo-poo it, but it was a skill that, and if you had it, it was yours.
Yes, nobody.
And you could literally take curtains and make them into a dress, and then the women sat together and quilted, and it was when they had community. It was how people connected, and I just loved that he honored that. And now, if you watch the film now, like it's there. I don't know if everybody, I don't know if you noticed it when you watched.
I didn't.
But now and now maybe that
I'll see
Sealy's
it.
pants
Sealy's
will
pants
mean something
might
to
make
you.
sense to me now.
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking
because
that
it
when you were
was
talking.
her way out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also a because I'm gonna do it by taking on the pants, which was happening in that era. That women were starting to wear pants and say, you don't get to tell me what I wear. Because, there's a whole saga there, but, women wore dresses, but you were easier to rape if you were in a dress. Sorry.
No.
But that was part of women saying,
enough.
No, enough. We're going to wear the pants.
Yeah.
All right, I got emotional.
We did it. Okay.
Yes, we did it. Okay.
The next one is Elemental. This is a Disney Pixar film directed by Peter Sohn, starring the voice talents of Lee Lewis, Mamoudou Athie, I think I got that right, Catherine O'Hara, and Wendy McClendon Covey. And this is Pixar's giving us a whole new world to experience, the world of elements, earth, fire, water, air. It's a Romeo and Juliet tale. Romeo is Wade, a water person, and our Juliet is Ember, a fire person. There's a caste system at work within the city, and it's clear that the fire people are treated as lower status than water or air, as a newly arrived, like an immigrant parody, not parody, an analogy of they're in coming to the city and are othered, are made to feel other. Ember's family owns a convenience store in part of the city that the fire people occupy, and there's a plot point where that part of the city is threatened with a possible leak, and oh no, this will never happen kind of thing. And I honestly, this didn't stick with me, and I'm wanting to hear your opinion, because I was kind of like, how did they resolve this? And I don't remember. I was kind of like, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh. The visuals are incredible. The colors, it's a gorgeous piece of filmmaking, or animation, I should say. But I just felt like this wasn't one of their stories that really grabbed me. I got a bit misty-eyed during the forgiveness/acceptance moment that's illustrated. And it kind of goes over the challenges of being a first generation of an immigrant family and kind of but I don't know, it just didn't do it for me, and I found it like, well, that was nice, and then just sort of moved on. So what are your thoughts on this one?
I think it's a really forgettable Disney movie. I didn't even love the color palette, so I didn't think it was particularly beautiful. And I thought it was very, like, let's reach into the bag, where all the ideas are and stick all the ideas together. It's funny because we're watching the Avatar, The Last Airbender on Netflix right now.
Oh, yeah,
which,
I have to get to that, yes.
we loved the original cartoon. The Shamalama Ding Dong version of it was a no on my thing. But, don't even get me started on that. But, so we had just watched an episode of that and then went over to, because I was like, I gotta watch a movie. We gotta watch Elemental. And I was like, oh, it's just Avatar. It's the four elements. And my husband was like, oh, it's just West Side Story. And I was like, no, it's Romeo and Juliet. And which is also,
West Side Story,
same thing. And we were like, oh, and now it's this movie, and now it's that movie. It's just like, okay. And the first half hour, I just had the hardest time staying awake. I had to stand up. That's how bored I was.
Oh, no.
I was like, okay. Because it was just so done, right? And like, oh, it's clear that each one of these elements represents, that it's a group of people who are looking at the other group of people and saying, you're not like me.
Yeah.
And heaven knows, we need those kinds of movies right now where we go, but look at why that's wrong. I applaud that. But you gotta give me something new, and I just wasn't getting it. And then, then we got the love story, and then I was a little bit more in. I thought the love story was really well done. And again, we had this K-drama kind of yearning because she's fire, he's water, they can't even touch.
Yeah.
So we get the yearning and that we'd like to be together, but we can't even touch kind of thing. But it was I can see why you would forget. It's fresh in my mind because I watched it just a few hours ago. But I can see why you would forget what it was that happened because it's very unremarkable.
Okay.
So, I mean, I thought that the best line in the whole movie was when the fire girl gets taken to meet the family of the water family, and they're sitting and they seem to be so accepting of her, where that, he's already met the fire family and they've been like, get out of here because they don't even know that they're dating, and they say, get out, you're water, we don't want you here. And if she were to bring him home to dinner, it would not go over well, right? But so here she is at the water family, and it seems like she's being accepted, but then the uncle says, you know what I find amazing is how well spoken you are. And he's like, I can understand everything that you're saying. And she says, yeah, maybe because I've spoken this language my whole life. I thought that was the most informative, interesting moment, commentary of the whole thing. But because it was solid, it was just, it was there and it, and that was it. But it's a very, it's okay. It's okay. But this should not win Best Picture.
Yeah.
However,
it's in Best Animated, right?
Right.
That's a category. Yes. Yeah.
But it should not win Best Animated. But Disney has spent a great deal of time and kind of pulled an Adam Schiff maneuver, which we'll discuss in a second, to try to elevate this to the point where it would get an Oscar nomination and potentially a statue, but it should not.
No.
It's not horrible. It's not horrible. It's just not, it's Disney. It's not a memorable movie.
Right. And it's disappointing in particular because it's Pixar, because I expect more from Pixar. I feel like they've done some really unique and interesting things, and they've moved me to tears on multiple occasions, and this was just meh.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
So our next film, which will kind of go this
Hand in
part
hand,
of the
yes.
discussion,
Yes, is
Nimona.
Nimona. Now, Nimona is directed by Troy Quane and Nick Bruno, and it has the voice talents of Chloe Grace Moretz, Riz Ahmed, Eugene Lee Yang, Beck Bennett, and RuPaul. So here we are. We're in a complete sci-fi fantasy world of monsters and knights, and we meet Ballister Boldheart, voiced by Riz Ahmed, and he's a commoner who's earned his way in the world through hard work and determination, and is about to be knighted along with his love interest, Ambrosius Goldenloin, voiced by Eugene Lee Yang. And Goldenloin is a descendant of the original monster slayer Glorith. So there's a conspiracy afoot when the almost knighted Ballister is framed for killing the queen. So that's where we start. He's miserable, he's on the run, and he's befriended by Nimona, voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz, who wants to wreak havoc upon the world. She's been rejected by typical people and now sets her sights on becoming a sidekick to an evil villain, and she's assuming that that's who Ballister is. During one of the action sequences, we find out Nimona is a shapeshifter, and that's why she's an outsider, and the two pair up to uncover the mystery of who framed Ballister and try to avoid being captured. I like this, but it skimmed the surface for me. The people of this world have been taught to fear the monsters outside the gate, and therefore they rely on the knights to protect them. But at one point, Nimona protests there are no monsters, and her story kind of shows us why she's an outsider and why people think they're monsters, but we just don't go into that so much, I felt. And it's, about indoctrination or othering, about the class system, but it kind of lacked heart for me. I like that they had the romance between the two knights and that it just is. We're not making a big deal of it. But I think that's what you had said, that's maybe why Disney backed away from this originally. Weren't they originally on board with this and then they dropped it and pushed all their efforts into Elemental? But I don't know. But, it didn't grab me and make me go, yay! It was just like, oh, that was cute. That's kind of what I walked away. What are your thoughts?
I loved
you
this
loved
movie.
It.
I loved this movie. Now, the way the story goes, and we don't know, the way the story goes is that this movie was produced, greenlit, and produced by Disney. But that at some point when the film was done or almost done, Disney said, we're going to pass on this. We're going to put all of our money into Elemental for this year and shelved the movie. And that Netflix bought the movie from Disney and said, we're going to promote this. And now it's been nominated for the same category. And so Netflix has done a big push and you can watch it for free right now, even if you are not a Netflix subscriber. They have made it free for everyone because they want people to see it. I don't know if that's still true because I think the voting has closed now.
The voting has ended, yeah.
And they really wanted people to see it. And everyone said, well, that's just a ploy, and that Netflix is saying that it's because there was the gay romance. I don't know. I don't know what the truth of it is. I feel like that's a lot of smoke because it is a side thing in the movie. It just is there. It's not what the movie is about. It's just there. I think it's very sweet and precious. But, it's not what the movie is about. What the movie is about, I love. That it is about, who are the monsters? Yeah,
and the fear mongering,
and who, who that is. And I thought that was all very clear. I don't want to spoiler alert,
right?
But to me, that was very, very clear of who and what. And I thought that the character of Nimona, it's so funny because whenever I've Googled to see, cast and names, and I put Nimona, it always comes up the question, is Nimona a boy or a girl?
Interesting.
And I'm like, oh, you missed the point.
Yeah.
And that's part of the point. That we all want to categorize.
Yes.
That we all want to say, is this a he? Is this a she? Are they a they? Like, I just want to be able to put them in a comfortable box and know. We watch, I do anyway, I watch too much reality television and it's like, oh, is so-and-so a villain in the reality show?
Right.
And I've noticed that kind of language. It's like we want archetypes. And we're like, who's the villain? I want to know who the villain is. Who's the villainess? And I want to know, are they male or female?
Yeah.
These questions that we all have so that we can tidy people up into little boxes. And people don't fit into boxes. And I feel like Nimona is this anti-hero. She's the person who comes in and says, I want to burn stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's be mean. Let's wreak havoc. Let's kill somebody. And I love that we get to see what that's rooted in. thought that was great.
Okay, all right.
That really resonated with me. And I love Riz Ahmed. Riz Ahmed, read the phone book to me. I'm there.
Oh, yes.
I will sit there. You can read it to me.
If you're not connecting, he was in Sound of Metal, which
so
was
good.
fantastic. He was also in a HBO series called The Night Of,
Which I've not seen.
Oh.
I'm sure I would love that.
amazing.
But he also won finally his Oscar last year for the best live action short, which if you have not seen that, that is a great movie he
Right.
made. He finally got his Oscar, which I was so thrilled because he was nominated for The Sound of Metal.
Yeah.
Love, love, love Riz Ahmed. So,
Yep. Oh, and Star Wars fans, he's in Rogue One.
I didn't realize that was him. See?
Yeah.
And I do. I love him. I think this is a wonderful movie. I think it's a great movie to watch with your kids. For anybody who has ever had a kid who's been labeled, I think it's a great movie for them to watch to see that they don't have to be their label, and labels are just labels, and maybe we all start looking at people instead of labels and not worrying about, is Nimona a boy or a girl?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Just saying. Okay, onward.
Next one is Rustin. And this is a biopic on Bayard Rustin, an activist and organizer during the civil rights movement. It's directed by George C. Wolfe, starring Coleman Domingo in the title role, Gus Halper, Jeffrey Wright, again, Chris Rock, Audra McDonald, and CCH Pounder.
And so many more people. We
And
couldn't
so
fit them
many
there.
more. Yes, fabulous cast. And this is focused basically on the time that he was helping to organize the March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. did his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. So this is all the politics that go behind the scenes of any movement, and that, like any movement, the equal rights movement had people that had more than one reason to fight. And Rustin is that person. Not only is he fighting for equal rights as a black man, he's also gay.
Yeah.
And he realizes that issue will have to take a back seat for now, because the focus is, you have to be single focused. And as a biopic goes, this fits more what I think of when I think of a biopic. Extraordinary times, determined people, and it also did what I like in a biopic. It introduced me to somebody I did not know from history. And I love it when that happens, because it makes me want to know more about him. And his impact on the civil rights movement was pretty strong. I mean, what they showed us in the movie, he was instrumental in making that moment in history happen. And Coleman Domingo is, you may recognize him. He was Mr. in Color Purple. So he's having a great year.
Yes.
And happy for him. And this shows two different roles and fabulous range for him. We will see more of Coleman Domingo, and I am happy about that. It held together well, but I felt like it lacked a little bit of depth, in my opinion. And I think that's another thing. A lot of times, biopics, it makes you just want to go read a book or watch a documentary about the person, because they cannot cover everything about what makes this person who they are. And so I guess it's good inspiration for learning more about our history. And I'm glad he received that nomination. I thought that was well deserved.
He is sublime in this movie. He is absolutely top of my list now in terms of actors to watch. From having seen him in these, and there was something else we had just seen him in too that my husband said, "You realize this is the same guy?" And I went,
I think he was in Euphoria, and I never saw that.
Oh, he's just so good and a shapeshifter, and just an amazing performance. And I like the film. I don't think it's best, and it wasn't nominated for Best Picture, and I don't think that it should. I love the support that it got, that it's got all these wonderful people playing these wonderful cameos. But I, like you, did not know who Rustin was. I was like, what's this movie about? Who's this? And they kept calling him Baynard, and I was, or whatever his name is, and I was like, but who's Rustin? I didn't know. Because he's a character in history that I did not know.
Right.
And I just would like to say to filmmakers who are making films about any kind of history, but I find that in particular with Black history, when we're talking about Black history, I just want to say to you that those of us who grew up in a certain era, we weren't being taught this in school, and
Right.
we are behind.
Yes,
And I would like to be less
woefully,
behind, woefully behind. I would like to be less behind. I'm grooving on the films and learning a lot from them, but you've got to take that into consideration when you're telling a story. So there were people that I did not know that I was like, that must be somebody important, and I'm Googling half the movie to be like, I want to understand what's going on. I should not have to Google in a movie to understand what's going on. So that's my gripe, but is it worthwhile? Yes, it's so worthwhile to watch, and his performance is so amazing. Like, just, I don't even have adjectives. And I said, afterwards, I said, I'm so glad this movie exists because I didn't realize what they had to go through to make this march happen. All I ever saw was I Have a Dream.
Right.
That's all I ever heard. That's all. I never thought about how did they organize and who did that and what did they have to go through to do that. And you watch this movie and you have a greater understanding of it. It was so inspirational for anybody trying to do anything, right? You don't have to be black or gay to understand his strife, right?
Right.
His performance is so good. But again, like, I don't want to Google.
Yeah,
While
yeah.
I'm watching a movie, I don't want to Google. I love the idea of reading a book afterwards.
Yes, yeah.
absolutely. But inspire me to do that, not because I didn't understand your movie.
Right.
And there were things that I was like, I don't know who that person is in history. It's just so demoralizing to me, this whole rich history that I was alive,
Right.
but I didn't know because they were not teaching it in my school.
No,
That's
that's true.
And I love, though, what I started to say is I love that this is a movie now that will be shown in like 7th grade history for the next 10 years, and won't that be wonderful? And it'll be a treat for them, and these characters will come alive.
Right.
But, you know, I said the opposite when we watched the Bonaparte movie.
I couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm sorry.
Well,
I love Joaquin, but
I love Joaquin too, but what in the hell? Excuse my French. But you know, that's a movie that they're going to show in 9th grade history, and the kids are going to sleep right through it, you know, whatever. But ask me how I really feel. All right, onward.
Onward. I think it's our
Okay,
snubs. All right,
which
sure.
we've sort of have touched on. I have a little bit. Go ahead.
All right, me first?
You first.
All right. Well, my snub, of course, number 1 in my snub list is Greta Gerwig. Should have been nominated for Best Director for Barbie. I will die on that hill. I love her, and I'm mad that she got.
You gonna throw your shoes?
I'm going to throw my shoes. I'm going to take off my earrings, whatever it is.
I'll hold your purse.
I'll do all the things.
Hold your purse.
And then the other snub is Margot Robbie, because I felt like, I think that she is so beautiful that she's not, it's almost like distracting how beautiful she is, and I don't think people notice how good she is. And she was amazing, perfectly cast to be this iconic Barbie, and yet the journey and everything she does, she's wonderful in it. And so I'm bummed she wasn't nominated for Best Actor. I don't know if you've ever seen her in I, Tonya. I loved her.
Oh, she got an Oscar, didn't she?
I don't remember. This is the bad thing about
I
being
think
an
that
Oscar
worked
fan.
against her.
I never remember. No, she was nominated. I'm pretty sure she was nominated.
I think she won.
I
I think that
know.
maybe not though. But I think that plays against her because I think when you won one, people don't want to give you.
Because yes, that's exactly the things that happens with Oscars is, you're due one, so we'll give you one for this performance, even though it might not have been the one you should have won it for.
It's a lot of BS.
Yeah, it is. It's silly. So the last thing I thought was a snub was Charles Melton in the Best Supporting Actor for May December. He played the husband of the horrible Julianne Moore, and he was wonderful. And I felt like that was a really good performance and a very subtle performance. And so I don't know who I would remove from the category. Well, maybe I'd remove, was De Niro in that category? I don't know. I really didn't like Killers of the Flower Moon. So I was like, except for Lily Gladstone. I would
Yeah.
remove everybody else. But those are my snubs. Tell me your snubs.
And I looked
Shannon.
it up. Margot Robbie was nominated but did not
Did
win
not
for
win.
I,
Okay,
Tonya. So
there
it
you
should
go.
not have been counted against her.
There you go.
But I think people probably assumed
They
she
might
did win.
assume, yeah.
But you know who did win was Allison Janney won for that movie.
Oh,
And her performance was...
she was fantastic.
Oh, she was off the charts.
Oh,
Fabulous.
okay.
So
I'm
there
okay
we go.
with that. Yeah. All right.
So for my snubs, obviously I already said I cannot believe The Color Purple is not up for Best Picture. I'm done with the whole thing. Shoved the whole thing in the ocean over it. I am so mad that in almost everything, I think maybe she got a BAFTA award, but the fact that Taraji P. Henson did not get a Best Supporting Actress nomination from this is just poo-poo caca. It's that everybody's focusing, and I think even the studio is focusing on Danielle Brooks, and I think either Divine Joy Randolph or Danielle Brooks needs to win that category, but I wanted Taraji to get a nomination, and I'm ticked that she didn't. She deserves it. Taraji, I just want you to know that I saw it, and you were robbed. But then my other one, which you will horribly disagree with, but I think, you know, it's funny, you are mad that Greta Gerwig, because Barbie got a Best Picture nomination and she didn't get nominated, and I'm like, Bradley Cooper should have gotten a director nomination for Maestro, and the fact that he didn't is just political BS. Like, he directed the hey nani nani out of that, and he deserved a nomination, and I'm not accepting. That's a hill I'll die on.
Yeah, there you go.
And
All right.
and I hear a lot of people going, well, there's 10 Best Picture nominations, and that
Only
you know,
5 director
only
nominations.
5 directors, and it should be 10. And I'm like, but one of the people that I would take out of the Best Director, I think, is one of your favorites for the next one. That I'm like, oh please. So we'll fight about that.
Oh yes. Okay, we can fight about. Okay,
but
that's
but
the movie.
Bradley deserved one.
Yeah. All right.
So
there's our snubs. Now here's the hopefuls. So hopeful. Now, if you want to talk about taking off your earrings and throwing your purse, if a Zone of Interest does not win for Best Sound Design, then I don't know what. Because that sound design was another character in the film.
Yeah.
And it was so critical. And
Yeah, I
there's
agree
what
with
my
you.
daughter pointed out, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. One of the children was imitating the sound of the mechanics of the crematorium. And while he was playing, he was imitating. And so that's how deep the sound is in terms of this film. Amazing film.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting
has
for
to
that.
win.
It
It
has
has
to
to
win
win.
for sound design.
Yeah.
Because that made it, and I probably will win for Best Foreign Film. I have a feeling. Because it's nominated in both categories of Best Picture and Best Foreign Film. I think that sometimes they do that. It splits the vote. But the next person I picked, and this is me being political, I loved Anatomy of a Fall. I know you hated it, but I loved Anatomy of a Fall, and Justine Trieste is the director and the only female director nominated in the director category this year, and she's only the 9th woman nominated. There have only been 8 women total. Jane Campion was nominated twice, and of those since 1929, and of those only 3 have won: Jane Campion, Catherine Bigelow, and Chloe Zhao. So that's me being political. Like, let's get some more women in there, people. I want it to be 50-50, or actually we're 51% of the population, 51-49 then. You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I really loved Anatomy of a Fall. I thought that was a really good film. I know you're not your favorite, but Best Original Song, I want Billie Eilish for What Was I Made For. Billie and Phineas, her brother O'Connell, the movie was perfect. It had this beautiful, haunting, ethereal, amazing.
Yeah.
I want that to win. So those are the things I'm hoping for in those categories.
Well, and I agree with you on 2, and the other one I'm trying desperately to overlook this spot that you had that you liked this film. Because to say that I hated Anatomy of a Fall, I mean,
an understatement.
hate is such a strong word, but it doesn't begin to describe the depths of how badly I really want to throw that into the nearest trash compactor and light it on fire. And I too feel that more women need to have opportunities to direct. I mean, there is deep, like, you know, in the weave of the fabric of filmmaking, discrimination against women directing, and I agree that that's a big problem, but I think giving it to someone who directed a horrible movie is not the idea. Just my personal thing on that. But, yeah. So my ones that I'm rooting for, I just think that Carey Mulligan's performance in Maestro is better than butter. I just love her. I think that she is a brilliant actress, and the scene that she's in that picture, it's just some of the best acting work I've ever seen. She's not going to get it. I already know that. I made my peace with it, but I'm rooting for her all the same. It's lovely, and I love the way Bradley directed her in that. But then the other two that I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I think that both of them will win the category, is because I love the shorts. I'm all about the shorts.
Yeah.
And the live action shorts this year, you guys, there's 5 of them, and they're all good.
I think I've only seen 2, but I did see the one that you're rooting for, and it gutted me.
Oh,
Gutted me.
Gutted is the perfect. I said afterwards that I wish that they would allow, because I wish that David Oyelowo could be up for an Oscar for his performance in that. It is gutting, but it just, I mean, talk about, it's like 12 minutes long and change your life.
Yeah.
Change your
Amazing.
life. So I'm talking about the film The After, but there are 5 films nominated in this category, and I'll be honest with you, it may not win because it gets really, a lot of people don't see these films, and it gets really like who spent the most money. All 5 of the films, there's not a film in there that I'll be like, oh darn, that one was so much worse than the other one. They're all great, but I really am going to be voting for this little film. You can watch it on Netflix, you guys, and I really encourage you to watch it. I encourage you not to have big things planned to do afterwards, even though it's like 11 minutes long, because you're going to need a couple of hours.
Yeah, recovery time.
But it's so good, and David Oyelowo, oh, it's just stunning. I don't think, like, I am somebody who will speak things to the screen, both in the movies, in the movie theater, and at home, that I am somebody who will go, oh, you know, like that, but I have never screamed like I screamed in that.
In the After.
In the After. So there's that. And then for the best short documentary, there is a lovely little film that they've been showing here on like public, you know, television here in Los Angeles that's called The Last Repair Shop. And it's just one of the most beautiful things ever made. It sings in me. I've been talking about it. Poor Chris had to hear about it all the other day. It's so good. And it's just the best filmmaking, the best storytelling in short form. It's so good. I expect it to win. I haven't seen all the other, keeping it real, I have not seen all the other films in the category, but I know there's a great deal of momentum behind this film. And they have been playing it just on, you know, regular TV here, so I expect that it will do well.
Yeah.
And it does. You know, like I said, I haven't seen all the other films, but this definitely deserves an Oscar. There might be other ones that are worthy as well, but it's. I encourage you. You can watch that on Disney Plus.
Yep.
It's there, The Last Repair Shop, and if you live in Los Angeles, they are showing it at different times. I don't know how that works, why they're doing that, but I turned on the TV and it was playing, and I went, oh, it's just an excerpt, and it was the whole movie. And I want to say it's like around a half hour long.
Yeah, it is a shorter.
And it's for those of you who are interested to know what it's about, there is a place in Los Angeles where Los Angeles still, and I hope that it continues, because we have had Dudamel. They brought Dudamel in to the LAUSD system because there was a strong music program. In the LAUSD is the school district for Los Angeles, Los Angeles School District. It's the second largest school district in the world, I think.
Yeah.
And a lot of schools, covering a lot of area, and they try to be committed to a very robust music program, and that kids of any economic stature can be given an instrument, get lessons, and play in the orchestra. That's been a real commitment across the years at LAUSD, and what we have not known is how they keep the upkeep on those instruments.
Yeah, because they're passing them from child to child.
And that instruments get broken,
Yep.
and so there are a core group of people who work in this repair shop, and we get to follow them and some of the instruments, and it's just one of the best things ever.
Wonderful.
Just like, you want to talk about the power of film and good storytelling. It's just amazing, you guys. It will lift you up. It is just beautiful. I commend the filmmakers, and I can't wait to see them win an Oscar.
Yeah.
All right, now I've gotten emotional
I
twice.
know, you're making me cry. What up?
It's so
What up?
good, you guys. So
I have to go back to something, because remember how
Yes.
we disagreed vehemently about Wes Anderson?
Yes.
Back
Yes.
before. One of the films in the short film is a Wes Anderson film, and it's the world of, I forget, Henry Sugar.
It's
forget
the wonderful
world.
I think it's the wonderful world of Henry Sugar.
or Wonderful Life of Henry Sugar.
Yeah,
something
like that.
And there are a series of these short films that he did, and they are all based on Roald Dahl short stories.
Gotta love that.
And it is the perfect marriage of subject and director.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
And so I was like, this is what I want to see Wes Anderson do more of, because I don't get him narratively in his other stuff, but I got him in this, and I thought, he's a genius.
He is suited to short form, and to have the Roald Dahl, inspiration. I've even enjoyed. I've watched that short honestly like 4 times now, and I've gone back and watched. They've done docs showing how they shot it, and I've watched that like 8 times.
Yes,
because you learn something new at every time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No worries.
As I weep. Yes, but keep it. So that's another one of those shorts that's up against the After.
That's up against
and
the
then there
After.
are 3 others
And
that
the
are
3 are
very
really
good.
That's
Very
gonna be
good.
a tough one.
Like really thought-provoking, beautiful films, all very different. I know your daughter is a film student, so I can't think what the name of it. It's something like The Night Song or something like that. That I would love to hear her opinion of that.
Yeah.
Because it's the only one of them. Well, no, they all have a dark element, and some of them have a funny element. Anyway, they're all interesting. So, and most of them you can see pretty easily. There's the one that Samantha Bee produced. It's called Red, White, and Blue. It is you have to purchase it for $1.99 to watch it, and it's a very surprising film. I will say that.
Well, I love Samantha Bee. So that's interesting.
Yes, on the subject of abortion.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's a heavy one.
And it will surprise you.
Okay.
I can't say more than that.
Okay.
So yes, and great films, the short films. All right, so that's our Oscar special. Obviously, we hope that you guys enjoyed that, and that we'd love to know if there are films that you want us to do. We're in debates, and I'd love your opinion about it, about whether we're going to continue with the video format for this, or whether we're going to go audio only on this particular show. So those of you who do listen and podcast, reach out to us and let us know.
Yeah.
If that's where the most of you are listening, we might move this to just
audio.
Audio. We might. But we'd love to hear from you guys.
You wouldn't get to see the feather boa,
you
but
wouldn't.
there you are.
Or me attempting to wear pantyhose, which is a thing. If you're listening to this in podcast, you're like, what? Shannon, I'm wearing a dress, and I have pantyhose on. So there we have it. But it's such a pleasure to have done 3 years of this now with you.
Our third
amazing.
Annual.
Are you doing food for the event?
I'm struggling a little, but one of the things I did for zone of interest, because we usually try to think of a dish with a pun in the name or something like that. And everything was just so rude and not respectful. So
Yeah.
I donated to the Showa Foundation instead. And so I'm going to have a little thing. Showa Foundation is something that Steven Spielberg created after Schindler's List. And it was at the time to document the stories of the survivors of the Holocaust.
Yes.
It has since expanded to document the stories of survivors of any genocide. And unfortunately, there are several to choose from. But keeping those stories alive, first-hand account, I think is critical. And I love that he did that.
How nice that you did that.
Yeah, and I felt like I can't do anything like, in bad taste. But yeah, I was for pour things that might just be the bar where you pour things.
I see.
And then for Maestro, I think we're going to do G Officer Crumb Cake. We're going to have a crumb cake because we love West Side Story and of course Leonard Bernstein.
Crumb cake.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a few. Any suggestions? I'm open because I'm going to make I'm going to make japchae for past lives because I'm like, wow, any excuse to make Korean food, I'm there.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Well, keep us posted, you guys, about what you'd like us to be reviewing next. I've been watching a bunch of things on television.
I've been listening to the book that Barbara Streisand wrote about. It's called My Name is Barbara, and it's going through her whole career.
Wow. And
so now it makes me I'm going to watch The Way We Were probably at some point because I'm like, I need to rewatch these films because she's an interesting lady.
Yeah.
And the audiobook is fantastic because it's her.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're sitting there having a chat with Barbara.
I love this.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
All right, I may have to do that. All right, very good. But if you like Past Lives, go watch One Day.
I will. It's on my list now.
There we go. All right, you guys. Until next time, we're back next week with a whole bunch of shows, back talking about autism. So join us then. We have a live show with Dr. Grant Pichet on Tuesday for Ask Dr. Doreen. And plus plenty of guests as we wind our way into April. Because there's a lot going on in April. So until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to Chris for everything that he does that makes it possible. All right, you guys, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.